Federal Executive Council okays 35 billion naira for Nebza Power Station. Nigeria Economic Summit Group projects 2.9% economic growth in 2021. Central Bank of Nigeria's open market operation auctions dropped by 71% to 4.38 trillion. World Economic Forum in Singapore postponed from May to August. Oil prices rise to $58 as OPEC exceeds output cut target. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The Nigerian Economic Summit Group (NESG) has projected that Nigerian economy would grow by 2.9% in this year and achieve a sustained high growth rate up to 2025 in line with the expected global recovery. The NESG, in its 2021 macroeconomic outlook unveiled, said the country would achieve a more robust and resilient economy exemplified by improved external reserves and fiscal position, as well as moderate inflation rate of 14.5%. NESG in the report projected government revenue to increase by 23.3% further till 2025, while the exchange rate will become stable as unemployment and poverty ease over time. Chief Executive Officer NESG Laoye Jayola noted that like 2020, 2021 would be characterized by uncertainties, adding that more effort is needed to get Nigeria on the path of positive economic growth that delivers a reduction in unemployment and poverty. The Federal Executive Council has approved the sum of 35 billion naira for the building of power stations by the Nigerian Export Processing Zone Authority, NEPZA, in the processing zones in Calabar and Kano. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Niyi Adebayo, says the contract awarded to Misuse Mutual Commitment Nigeria Limited would be jointly funded by the government and the company that won the award in 25% to 75% plan.
The intention of the upgrade of the two zones is to create zones with world-class standard. The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is desirous of making Nigeria a manufacturing hub, especially now that we have signed on to the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
He said Council approved a payback period of 10 years of the contractor's portion. Moving on, meanwhile, Minister of Mines and Steel Development Olamilekon Adegbite says Council approved the categorization of Aluminium Smelting Company of Nigeria, ASCON, that is in Ekot Abasi, Akwa Ibom State, as a power producing and strategic company. With approval, Adegbite said the production of aluminium will start in Nigeria.
BP has concessioned that company, and the company sought to be categorized as a power producer and as a strategic company, which Council approved, so that we can start the production of aluminium in Nigeria.
Nigeria's livestock currently is worth more than 3 trillion naira and is expected to grow up to 8 trillion naira in the next 10 years under the National Livestock Transformation Plan. Herders' income is also expected to increase by 100% as the weight and the price of an average cow will increase as unnecessary movement of animals will be eliminated. Musa Baba Aliu has more.
Research has shown that Nigeria is housing the largest population of domestic animals in Africa, with an estimated population of close to 200 million. And Nigerians consume beef worth more than 3.2 million naira annually, with Lagos, Rivers, and Kano the major consumers.
We have a livestock of nearly 25 to 30 trillion naira as part of our GDP.
But the major challenge is that 90% of the cattle are products of open grazing. Northern Nigeria is where the large number of the animals is situated, and both the owners and the livestock are being threatened by desert encroachment and soil degradation. The National Livestock Development Program is therefore designed to address 4 key areas. First is to develop government-owned gazetted grazing reserves, establish milk and fattening centers, push for private investment in the sector, while veterinary and schools are to be established for nomads. The plan will be experimented in Nasarawa, Gombe, and Adamawa states.
Why states will contribute land, project implementation structure, personnel, and 20% cost of the project.
Niger State has already established similar program covering 30,000 hectares at Bobi in Mariga local government area.
Solicited for support from EU on how to support our headsmen and governments to see that we get everlasting peace.
With the state governors under the National Economic Council agreeing to implement the program, there are indications that there will be a permanent solution to challenges of open grazing in the country.
To shed more light on the economic benefits in livestock value chain for growth is an agriculture extension expert from the University of Ibadan, Professor Kuta Yahaya. Prof, you're welcome to Business Express.
Ben, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Good to have you too.
Thank you.
Well, Prof, from the report we just saw, the value of livestock in Nigeria is put at up to 3 trillion naira. What do you see of such figures?
Well, I think it's understatement to quote such figure because we are dealing with a sector that over the years has been neglected due to lopsided attention paid to the crop sector, because many people are able to do without meat as long as they have other food to eat. But the concept of food security talks about quality, talks about nutrition and other things that make food that you consume worthwhile, which are also very significant for our health. So the neglect of the the livestock sector has become a big challenge. But there is a window of opportunity. This window of opportunity in a book published by the United States Agency for International Development and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations has predicted that the future of livestock in Nigeria, there are a lot of opportunities, in spite of the challenges and uncertainties. So for us, in this analysis, we look beyond just the livestock itself, but the entire value chain, which encapsulates the activities, adding value to activities from the primary point of production through processing to marketing and the ultimate consumer taking a very quality product.
Okay, Prof, talking about the value chain, it's a long value chain from production to consumption. Livestock is not a stand-alone thing. It's a whole agri value chain. Can you take us through this value chain and the possible worth and how it can improve the sector to improving our economy?
Well, let me give you a picture that should educate us Nigerians so that we can be very understanding about our real situation. Today we have about 180 million poultry chickens that you call, and it will surprise you, Benny, that out of this 180 million, only 21% are in intensive management system. 46% are extensive, and you now deal with about 23% or 33% that are semi-intensive. That is poultry. And then at the end of the day, only these segments that are intensive are currently under proper value chain initiative. You now talk about livestock. Livestock, only 1% is under intensive care, only 1% for cattle. The remaining about 82% are purely under extensive management system. So therefore, the opportunity that this offers us is that if we develop the sectors for processing, after the production, people can go to processing plants, sell to off-takers who will now process and take advantage of every component of the value chain. The product, right from the beef to the skin and to the hoofs and to the leather, they all are dealing with different components of the value chain with high economic value. So what we do now is to neglect a whole about 50 to 80% of other components. We just deal with produce the carcass, sell, and that's all.
Okay, Prof, what is the limiting factor? What's limiting us from exploring much more of this to add up to our GDP? Botswana, for instance, the livestock production adds to their GDP in no small measure. Nigeria is large, we have the population, we have the livestock. What is that missing link, and how can we get to bridge this?
We need to be deliberative. Deliberative in the sense that we need to pay attention to support those who are in the production, just as we have done to crops. If you remember, the passionate President Muhammadu Buhari, what he did on assumption of office was to address the issue of fertilizer. All the moribund fertilizer companies were revived, and today the issue of fertilizer scarcity is no longer a challenge. Now we are dealing with a sector in livestock where research is lopsided in favor of crops. By the Research Institute, if you go to IITA today, you will see cassava that is as big as half or as my size. Why? Because the product of research. We need to do the same thing to the livestock sector to improve the quality of what we have so that the quality of products will improve in terms of breeding and genetic engineering.
Okay,
Shika.
Talking about, yes, Shika. I was to go to Shika, talking about NAPRI
Exactly.
in Shika. That's one research institute that is renowned. What do you think is missing? What can they do more? And should we have more of such researchers? Do they have the right support? Talking about the funding as well as the technical know-how.
The technical know-how is not in doubt. Nigerians globally are well trained in terms of capacity, but the challenge we have is funding. We need to prioritize that the Nigerian Agricultural Research System is in their need of funding. The Research Institute, most of the researchers are live fallow. Many of them are on exit, brain drain, unabated because of funding challenge. Equipment to support their research are not even available. Thank God that this government, through TED Fund, is trying to revive research funding in universities. And the TED Fund has started with about 10 universities to start with grants to encourage researchers. Maybe with that, researchers from these universities will wake up to the challenges of producing more genetics, more breeds that can take us to the promised land. For example,
okay, Prof.
Yes.
What do you think should be the role of the subnationals, talking about the state governments as well as the local councils? I know to improve livestock and to ensure that herders don't move around, and also a measure to curtail these farmers-herders clashes, we have grazing reserves. Like in Kaduna State, we have Laduga. And in the report we just saw, we saw some
Niger
efforts
State.
in Niger
State
State
government, yeah.
and some other state. Don't you think more should be done, not just to increase yield and also to improve capacity to the point of us exporting beef out of this country, quality beef? It can also go a long way in curtailing this crisis between farmers and herders. What should we do?
Well, we have seen a good example demonstrated by Niger State government at Bobi Grazing Reserve. Niger State has about 21 grazing reserves and being gazetted now, so that if you can develop those grazing reserves, and then you have clusters of herders within those clusters, so that they can benefit from any improvement that you have in terms of breeds, in terms of artificial insemination, in terms of water availability. Because one of the key issues is we are in climate change reality. Climate change is a reality. It is affecting producers, it's affecting livestock herders, it's affecting farmers. So there is a convergence in terms of conflict that is likely to happen. So we need to address that issue of where they are. But as I told you, I think people have been, misled sociologically for not understanding that you cannot overnight keep 19.5 million cattle in one place. They need to be supported in terms of gradual, extensive, semi-extensive strategies. And how can you do that? You need to have demonstrations, just like in extension system. You need to have demonstration and success stories where you can replicate in clusters for farmers and herders to see, so that they can learn from them. You need to train and bring up their capacity, even in terms of producing feed or even growing a pasture.
And the time to do that is now.
This is the best time to do that.
Thank you so very much,
yes,
Professor Kutal Yahaya. For want of time, we can continue this discussion some other time. We can't exhaust it at a time like this. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Moving on, gold and silver prices edged lower on Thursday, weighed down by a stronger dollar, while investors await the passage of a massive stimulus package in the United States. Let's now see how the commodity market is faring this Thursday. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, says its members had achieved 101% adherence to crude oil output cuts mandatorily agreed upon last year to curb huge supply glut. This is coming as oil price rose to $58 per barrel, hitting over 11-month high after major producers showed they were cutting crude output in line with their commitments on restraint.
For 2021, demand is still expected to expand by about 5.6 million barrels a day, with the extended lockdowns in a number of countries impacting demand in the transportation sector in particular. The focus for 2021, however, is just about 0.6 million barrels a day, with expansion impacted by lower investments and increasing fiscal discipline, especially in the shale basins of the United States. The main contributors to non-OPEC supply growth in 2021 are still expected to be Canada, Brazil, Norway, and to some extent, the US.
The impact of COVID-19 has been felt across global garment and textile industry, with Nigeria having its fair share. Muplang Dakok on surviving COVID-19 segment turned her attention on women's underwear business, and she caught up with Jessica Dabarichi.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
People, especially women, invest a lot in good underwears that do not often come cheap. The underwear business is classified as an arm of the clothing industry, very essential for everyday use. Jessica Daberechi tells me that her mother got attracted to the business about 30 years ago. As the fruit does not fall far from the tree, Jessica also entered the underwear industry after completing the NYSC in 2018. All was good until the arrival of COVID-19, which dealt the business a blow in addition to other challenges.
You come, I'll give sanitize your hand and other things, power attend to you. And this is now maybe one or two be my shop. The other ones can wait outside, later you come inside. So now, they've been so poor, but we thank God for the life and everything. Back there, I know I can sell like 4 bags now in a month. How the business has been. But right now, 2 bags, yes, 4 months. It's terrible. So the comparison is very, very tough for us. What is slowing us down right now is the border that actually closed. Because right now, the beans are actually very expensive. Before, we can get them at the cheaper rate, but now, it is ×2 of what we're actually getting.
She is excited about the federal government's MSME Survival Fund through the Central Bank of Nigeria, but she is yet to apply.
I need it. Actually, I need it for the business. Because I want business to grow more than this. Because it has been so slow, but I need it.
Jessica's fear is of an impending second lockdown, which she says her business may not be able to withstand.
And just help us. Please put on your face mask. Very she does go. Because I don't want lockdown. Lockdown made us like it was slow and other things. Folk getting money for other things. It was so terrible. So please, it should not be locked down. I don't want lockdown at all.
Surviving COVID-19.
The dollar traded near its strongest in more than 2 months against the euro and the yen on Thursday, as pessimism about the U.S. economic outlook recedes before the release of important data on the jobs market. How much is the naira exchanging for other currencies? Shares in Asia Pacific mostly dipped in Thursday trade following another positive session overnight for the SP 500 stateside. Muplang Dakok reports.
Stocks around the globe slipped on Thursday as a spike in short-term Chinese interest rates fanned worries about policy tightening in the world's second-largest economy. Shares in Asia dropped with South Korea leading the losses. Mainland Chinese stocks also fell, with the Shanghai Composite down 0.25%, while the Shenzhen Composite dropped 1.439%. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index fell 0.78%. Over in Japan, Nikkei shared 1.06%. U.S. stock indices were slightly lower during the overnight session Wednesday evening as Wall Street attempted to continue the S&P 500's winning streak on Thursday. Dow Jones dipped 64 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures also both traded in mildly negative territory. The moves in extended trading came after a relative calm day on Wall Street that saw the S&P 500 edge out a rise of 0.1% and mark a third straight day of gains. European stocks opened slightly weaker Thursday morning, with Euro stock futures down 0.2% and FTSE futures up 0.14%. Markets in Africa are not expected to be left out of the downward streak, as a few markets are seen opening slowly. Boss De Able, Business Express.
That was Bossy Able with the global market. At this point, we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube. And you can also communicate with us on Twitter. And the handle is at NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback. Do join us again tomorrow at 3 p.m. Stay safe.